Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to start part 2 of the first book of Talmud Esel Sefirot, and this entire part is going to be about light when it comes through lines and circles, and we will explain exactly what that means. So first we're going to do an overview of what this part covers, and then we'll get into it. פרק א' מבאר 10 ספירות העיגולים שנתגלו אחר הצמצום. So the first chapter of this part covers the 10 Sefirot of circular energy, and again we'll explain it, that were revealed after the Tzimtzum. Ve'or Ein Sof mekifam, and the endless light surrounds them. V'chol or shel Sefirot ha'igulim mushpa lahem al yedei hakav, uvo yud aleph inyanim. And all of the light that these 10 Sefirot of circular energy they get through the line. If you remember from the last part, after the Tzimtzum, how did the vessel get its energy? Through a narrow line, or narrow ray, or a narrow line of energy. So the system that receives this line of energy is called the 10 Sefirot of Igulim, or of circles. Let's get into the Ari. So this ray or line that we've been talking about, imagine a singular narrow pipe. That it spreads out and it's drawn from within the endless light to the worlds that were created after the contraction, after the Tzimtzum, that are in the place where we said there's air and empty space. So that's the Ari. Now we're going to go into Rav Ashlag. So first, Rav Ashlag reminds us about the line, The line that we're talking about is the line that came from the endless light into the empty space after the contraction. הכלים של 10 הספירות ביושר נקראים בשם צינור. So why specifically the word pipe? The vessels of the 10 Sefirot of lines or of straightness, and again we'll get into why line and why circle and what's the difference between them. So these pipes, or these 10 Sefirot of the line, are called a pipe. מטעם שמגבילים בשליטה גדולה ובדיוק גדול את דרכי האור הנמשך בהם. Why are they called a pipe? Because they create boundaries and they direct with precision the light that comes through them, the light that is drawn by them. שלא יתפשט אלא בדרכים המסוימים בכלים ההם. So that it doesn't spread anywhere except for through this specific path through these vessels. כדוגמת הצינור המגביל בדיוק נמרץ את המים העוברים בתוכו. What's this like? Like a pipe of water that directs like a rushing flow exactly where to go. If you think of a shower head, if you take the head off a shower head and you turn on the shower, it'll spray everywhere. Only once you put on the shower head, it's directed. So that directed flow is our best comparison to how the 10 Sefirot of line, or the pipe, directs the light. ונמשכים ויוצאים ממנו באותה הצורה שבצינור. And another way it's like the pipe is that the way the water comes out of any pipe, it comes out in the same shape as the pipe. So if you turn on the sink, the shape of the flow of the water is a cylinder because the pipe is a cylinder. אם דק ואם בהרחבה, בלי שינוי כלשהו לעולם. If it's a narrow pipe, the flow of water will be narrow. If it's a wide pipe, the flow of water will be wide. Same with the light. So this spiritual pipe that is taking the light from the endless into the worlds that were created in this empty space, the light takes the form of this boundary, of the Sefirot, the Yosher, or the Sefirot of line or pipe. ומאותו הטעם נקראים האורות העוברים דרך הצינורות ההם. And because of this, the lights that go through this pipe are called Beshem Esel Sefirot Deyosher. They're also called the 10 Sefirot of straightness or of the line. ויותם נמשכים לפי החוקים של הצינורות האלו ביושר וצדק. יותר וכדומה. Because they're drawn through the rules of the vessels of the line. So, because the light is drawn by the vessels of the line and it goes through these vessels, it follows those rules of being in a direct path. It doesn't spread out. דהיינו בכלי הזך יותר מתלבש האור החשוב יותר וכדומה. In the higher vessel, the more important or the greater light is dressed. So you have a vessel that comes from a higher place, draws a greater light. That's how the vessels of the line work. Now I want to focus on that fact and compare it to how it worked before the contraction. If you remember, before the contraction, the endless light fulfilled everything. We didn't even see the difference between one vessel or another, or one phase or stage of the vessel or another. So they all looked equal. Now, after the contraction, we have differences in level, so now we have this light gets drawn to here, this light gets drawn to here, because there's a difference between the vessels. בלי שינוי כלשהו, מטעם השראת שליטתם החזקה של הצינורות עליהם. And the light doesn't deviate at all from the shape of the vessels of straightness because of their power to control and bind it. וכוח שליטה זו הנמצאת בצינורות האמורים, and this binding power that they have, הוא משום דכל מה שהוא רצון במדרגה העליונה, הוא כוח מחייב במדרגה התחתונה הנצלת בסיבתה. So whatever is the desire of a higher level becomes law. And I'm not just saying like legislation law, like it becomes like a law of physics on a lower level. What does that mean? ולפיכך, אותו הצמצום שעל בחינת ד' הנמצא בכלים דגולים, מבחינת רצון החופשי, נעשה בכלים יושר הסובבים על ידיהם, לבחינת כוח ושליטה המחייבת אותם כן. So the contraction at the level of the vessels of circle, at the Sefirot of circular energy, which again we'll explain soon. Originally, the tzimtzum was by choice. The vessel decided to say no. So at that level, it was choice. But after the tzimtzum below, in all the worlds that were created inside this empty space, it becomes, they don't have a choice. It becomes like a law of physics. This is how it has to work. וכוח זה נקרא בשם מסך. And this power of binding the light into a specific direction is called a masach, a screen, or a curtain. וזה סוד מה שנאמר בתיקונים, הפוך רצון ותשכח צינור, עד כאן לשונו. So now we can understand what Rav Ashlag brings from the tikkunim. The opposite of desire is a pipe. So if you take the literal Hebrew word, ratzon, has the same exact letters as the Hebrew word for pipe, tzinor. And they're saying that they're opposites of each other. Why? When we're talking about a pipe in the sense that it is the masach, the curtain, which, and you should remember these terminology, tzinor and masach, we're going to be using it a lot. שפירושו צמצום בשליטה, דהיינו שמעכב רצונו מלקבל בבחינת ד' מכוח העליון השולט עליו. So this pipe is called a screen because it stops the fourth phase, the b'china daled, from receiving the energy directly from the endless light. הרי הוא ההפך מן חומר הכלי עצמו, דהיינו הרצון לקבל. It's the complete opposite of the material of the vessel, because the material of the vessel does what? It draws light. What does the masach do? It stops it from coming. כי מעכב את עצמו מלהפך את רצונו זה, ועל כן רמזו הפוך רצון ותשכח צינור. So because the masach stops the light from getting to the vessel, and the vessel draws the light, that's why they use the verse that compares desire and the pipe as opposites. Why opposites? We have desire, that's the vessel, and the pipe is the masach, the screen. So we have the vessel, and then we have the contraction, and now we have this new form called the masach, or the screen, and that blocks the light from getting to the vessel. כלומר, שעניין הצינור הוא הפוך מהרצון, שהרי כופר רצונו ועושה ההפך ממה שרוצה. The screen does the opposite of whatever the vessel wants. The vessel wants light, the screen says no. ולכן תמצא בכל הדרושים והכתבים, that's why you'll find in all of the writings, Rabbi Shlag says, כשאנו רוצים לכנות ולהדגיש עניין הסתלקות האור מבחינה ד', when we want to specify that we're talking about the light leaving the fourth phase, that's the beginning of the tzimtzum, of the contraction, אנו מכנים זה בשם צמצום. That's when we call it the contraction. וכשאנו רוצים להדגיש כוח הצמצום הנוסף מצד אור הקו שלא נתפשט לבחינה ד', but when we want to talk about the contraction from the point of the light not getting to the fourth phase of the vessel, and just to make sure that the difference here is clear, we have, start from the beginning, we have the light in the vessel. The vessel is completely fulfilled, everything is beautiful. Then the contraction happens, the light leaves the vessel, that's what we call a contraction. Then the part of the contraction where the line gets all the way up to, but not into the fourth phase, the light doesn't get all the way to the fourth phase of the vessel, to Bchina Daled, אנו מדרגים אותו בשם מסך. That's what we call the screen, or the masach. שהוא כוח מעכב של האור, שלא יתפשט, because this is the power that stops the light from spreading out, לבחינה ד', to make it to the fourth phase. וכשאנו מדברים על כללות הכלי, and when we talk about the entire vessel, דהיינו הכלי והמסך ביחד, the vessel with the screen, מגדירים אותו בשם צינור. So whenever we're talking about the vessel with the screen, we're talking about that whole system, that's what we call a pipe. וכשמדברים על אור וכלי והמסך ביחד, and when we talk about the light and the pipe and the screen all together, the whole system, דהיינו באור המלובש במידת הצינור, מגדירים אותו בשם קו. That's what we call a line. So we have the light going to the masach and stopping there, and then the vessel. That whole system is called the line. וכשמדברים על כלי שאין בו מסך, מגדירים אותו בשם עיגול. And now we finally answer our question of what exactly is a vessel of circular energy. It's a vessel without a masach. No screen, nothing stops the light from coming in. So if there's nothing stopping the light from getting to the vessel, we call that the vessels of circular energy. If there is something stopping the light from getting to the vessel, that's already the vessels of the line, or straightness. So continuing on in the Ari, we said that there is a singular narrow pipe. So Rav Ashlag focuses on this word singular. מה שמדייק הרב במילת אחד הוא להוציא את תיקון שלושת הקווים שנעשו בעולם האצילות. So why specifically do we need to know that this is singular? Because this line that we've been talking about is called Adam Kadmon. It's the name of one of the worlds that was created in the empty space. That's all you need to know for now. But in the world of Atzilut, we already have a system where we have 3 columns. If you've been studying Kabbalah for a little while, you probably know that there's the right column, the left column, and the central column. So Rav Ashlag is saying that the Ari said singular here because we haven't yet gotten to where the 3-column system exists yet. It hasn't revealed itself yet. ומשבנו שבעולם אדם קדמון, עדיין אין כאן תיקון זה של ג' קווים, אלא רק קו אחד בלבד. So in Adam Kadmon, there isn't this system of the 3 columns. There's only the singular line. וטעם הדבר הוא, מפני שעניין תיקון של ג' הקווים נעשה לאחר זה בעולם האצילות. Why? Because this tikkun, this fixing of the 3 columns, is only starts in the world of Atzilut. והוא נמשך מדבר השיתוף של מידת הרחמים בדין. And this entire 3-column system has to do with the concept of the partnership of mercy and judgment. And if you don't exactly know what that means, that's okay. We'll get there later. כמו שאמר במקומו, וכאן אנו עוסקים בעולם אדם קדמון. Here we're dealing with the world of Adam Kadmon, which literally translates to primordial man, but that's just the name of the world. It doesn't mean literally primordial man. שעדיין לא נעשה השיתוף הזה, ועל כן אין כאן אלא קו אחד בלבד. So this partnership was not yet made between mercy and judgment. In fact, the separation hasn't been made yet. So we only have the singular line. וביאת האור לכלי הקבלה של הנאצל, and bringing the light to the vessel of the emanated thing, מכונה בשם התפשטות. That's what we call the light spreading out. So anytime we have the light going to the vessel, that's what we call spreading out. וכבר נתבהר לעיל, and we've already explained, שכלי הקבלה שבנאצל הזה, מכונה בשם צינור. This vessel within the emanated thing, after the contraction, meaning we have already the screen that stops the light from coming, that vessel is called a pipe. So one more thing from Rabbi Ashlag. יש ערך ידוע להבחין במדרגות של לידת פרצוף. There is a known way on how to talk about the steps of the birth of a system. By system we mean spiritual system. ששם מכונות 4 הבחינות שברצון בשמות אור, מים, רקיע, מהברכות ומהשערים. So over there, they're called, when we're talking about the birth of a system, the different steps are called like this: Or, light; mayim, water; rakia literally translates to firmament, but if you don't know what the word firmament means, because I didn't when I first learned this, the heavens or the sky. Mea brachot, 100 blessings; mea she'arim, 100 gates. Those are the stages. והוא מטעם התחלפות האורות שלו במקומם, and this is because of the changing of lights that are not in their proper place. שמשום החילוף הזה מקבל האור צורת מים. Because of this exchange, this constant exchange, the light takes on the form of water. What exactly does that mean? ומשמענו הרב ששורש דבר זה נעשה כאן עם ביאת הקו. The root of all this is done through the bringing of the line of light after the contraction, after the tzimtzum. שהאור המתפשט בבחינת הקו, the light that spreads out through this concept of the line, נבחן כלפי האור העליון לבחינת מים, is defined with respect to the upper light, meaning this light of the line in comparison to the endless is defined as water. ועל כן מדייק מימי אור העליון של אור אין סוף. That's why specifically it's when we say from within the endless light, that same word mimei can also mean from within the waters. Why waters if we've been talking about light the whole time? Because the form that the light takes through in this line is defined as water. That's our term for it. שעם התפשטות האור אל הצינור הדק נגרע האור מאוד מאורכו שבאינסוף ונבחן לבחינת מים בערך הקודם. So because the light has taken on a lower form than it had in the endless, it's bought for itself a new name called water. Why specifically water? Like we said, the water takes the shape of the pipe that directs it. So this light of the line is the same way. The light takes the shape of the vessels that are directing it. So now we're going back to the Ari. והנה ביות אור האינסוף נמשך בבחינת קו ישר תוך החלל הנ"ל. When the endless light is drawn through this in this concept of the straight line into the empty space, לא נמשך ונתפשט תכף עד למטה. It's not immediately drawn all the way down. אומנם היה מתפשט לאט לאט, it went slowly, and again when we're talking about time and spiritual things, we're not talking about physical time, we're talking about multiple changes in form, one after another. So when we say slowly, that means that there are multiple steps in this spreading of the light from the endless through all the worlds. Ratzoni lomar is my desire to say, the Ari is talking, Ki bitchila hitchil kav ha'or litpashet. In the beginning, the line began to spread out. ושם תכף בתחילת התפשטותו בסוד קו, מתפשט ונמשך ונעשה, כן גלגל אחד עיגול מסביב. And as the line starts to come out from the endless, around it is immediately created something like a wheel, this circle around it. Let's go back to רב אשלג. אור המתפשט בחוקים של ד' הבחינות בהדרגה, דהיינו מזרח אל האב, ונפסק על בחינת ד' נקרא קו ישר. So, right before we get to the line, the light is following the rules of the four phases, meaning we go from the most like the light to the most materialized. Al tit'eh, with the words ונתפשט תכף עד למטה, when we say that the light spreads out, that it doesn't spread out immediately all the way, you shouldn't make a mistake. לפרש התכפות ולאט לאט הנאמרים כאן על סדר זמנים. Don't think about it, Rav Ashlag is reminding us, like actual time. כי הרוחניות היא למעלה מזמן. Spirituality is above time. Even though we're after the contraction, we're still above this level of physical time. כנודע, אלא תכף עד למטה פירושו בלי שינוי של מדרגות. If it had to say that it would happen immediately or that it's not happening immediately is to say that it's happening with or without changes in form and changes in level. ולאט לאט פירושו על פי השתלשלות של המדרגות. The reason we say slowly is because of this generation of levels. We have level after level and they're built one after another. From what we talked about before, from the endless to the contraction that we said it happened immediately, there was no steps in between the endless light and having the contraction. It happened like this. It was one after another. One form, then the next. We're not talking about physical time. We're just saying there was no forms in between the endless light and then the contraction. After the contraction, from once we have the line of light, then we have this level, then that level, then that level, and we'll go through their names and how they work, each in its time. ורצונו לומר על השתלשלות הסדר של ד' הבחינות הנודעות, כמו שהולך ומפרש להלן. And what order are we going by? We're going by the order of the four phases of building the vessel, and we're going to build each world one after another. פירוש השורש של התפשטות שנתחדש שנקרא קו. So this root of this idea of what we have this new name called the line. Remember, the line didn't exist before the contraction, so this is this new idea called the line. כליותו נאצל חדש, since it's something new that's been emanated, נבחן בו שורש מיוחד המאיר אליו, בבחינת חידושו, שהוא נקרא ספירת הכתר של הקו. So the root of this idea called the line, since it's a new idea, is called keter. If you remember the 10 Sefirot, keter is the first sfira of the line, keter shel hakav. As a general rule, the root of any one system is called keter. So the beginning of any one spiritual system is called keter. ומן הכתר הזה מתפשט אור אינסוף אל הקו. From this sfira, from this level of keter of the line, the endless spreads to the line. על ד' הבחינות הנודעות, onto these four phases that we've talked about. אשר בחינה א' נקראת חוכמה. The first phase is chokmah. So now we have keter of the kav is the very beginning, is keter. Then the first phase is chokmah. Bchina bet nikret bina. The second phase is bina. Bchina gimel nikret zeranpin. And the third phase is called zeranpin. Zeranpin is chesed until yesod. Bchina daled nikret malchut. And the fourth phase is called malchut. ועל הסדר הזה אומר הרב לאל שנתפשטת לאט לאט, שמתחילה נתפשט הכתר. So this is what we mean when we say it happened slowly. First we had keter. ואחר כך החוכמה, and then phase 1. ואחר כך הבינה, and then phase 2. ואחר כך חזר אנפין, then phase 3. וכולו. And then phase 4, which is Malchut, and again for the next world. Phase Keter, that's the beginning of the system, it's not even a full phase. Then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. That's how things happen after the contraction. So what's this circle that we said appeared around the line as the line started to spread from the endless? Perush hamila igul, the definition of the word circle, Hayyim Vital, ואין בחלק א' פרק א' עוד הקו. ובהיות אור הקו מתלבש בעיגול נקרא גלגל. So the circle we've already explained is a vessel without a masach, without a screen. And when we have the circle going around the line, or what we're going to call from now on the line being dressed in the circle, that's what we call galgal, which literally translates to wheel, but that's just the term for it. We have a line with a circle around it. You can imagine one of those old cart wheels. You have the spoke in the middle, and then you have the lines that are connected to the middle circle, and then the circle around it. Then you have an axle that makes it turn. So the line with the circle around it, that's called a wheel, and that's what we call when we have the line of light dressed in the circle. Vayigul hazeh, now we're back to the Ari. This circle, היה בלתי דבוק עם אור האינסוף, הסובב עליו מכל צדדיו, is not attached to the endless light, which surrounds it on all sides. שאם יתדבק בו, because if it attaches to it, יחזור הדבר לכמות שהיה. It'll immediately go back to what it was before the contraction. ויהיה מתבטל באור אינסוף, and it would become cancelled out within the endless light. ולא יתראה כוחו כלל, and you wouldn't see its power at all, because within the endless, everything is fulfilled. There is no difference. You can't see the difference between anything. Nothing is revealed as its own entity. ויהיה הכל אור אינסוף לבד כבראשונה, and everything will be just the endless by itself like before. לכן העיגול הזה סמוך אל עיגול אינסוף ובלתי מתדבק בו. So this first circle that we're talking about is next to the endless light that surrounds it, but it's not davuk, which literally means stuck to or attached to. לכל התקשרות ודבקות העיגול הנאצל ההוא עם אינסוף המאציל. The main idea of the tying of the tie between this first circle and the endless, הוא על ידי הקו ההוא הנ"ל. It's not through the walls of the circle, it's through the line. That's how they're connected. אשר דרבו יורד ונמשך אור מן אינסוף ומשפיע בעיגול ההוא. Through the line, that's how light gets from the endless to the circle. Okay. כלומר, שכל האור שיש, now we're in רב אשלג, כלומר שכל האור שיש בעיגולים אינו אלא ממה שמקבלים מהקו. All of the light that we have in the circles is only what they get from the line. שהרתו היא בחינת הערה חדשה. Because the shining of this light is the concept of a new type of shining. What does that mean? שאין בו אלא ג' בחינות כנ"ל. We only have 3 phases. Why do we only have 3 phases? Because after the contraction, the light doesn't make it to the 4th phase anymore. So we only have 3 phases that are receiving light. ולפיכך, הרי הוא משונה מן אור אינסוף, הסובב בבחינת אור עיגול. That's why it's different. The light that's in the circle is different from the light of the endless that's around the circle. וזה שאמר רב שהוא בלתי דבוק. That's why the Ari said that it's not attached to. באור אינסוף, כלומר שאין צורתו של אור עיגול של הכתר דעיגולים. Because the form of the light of the circle, even in the keter of all of the circles, the root of all the circular levels, שווה לאור שבאינסוף. So that light is not, even that light is not the same as, it's not the same in form as the endless. כי השוואת הצורה היא הדבקות שברוחניים. So because, like we said, what do we mean when two things are attached or in unity? That means that their form is the same in spirituality. So since the form here is, the form of the light is different from the endless, that's why we're saying that the circle is not attached to the endless. מסובב פירושו גורם מסובב. And that cause explains the effect. Meaning, what's the cause? The light is different. The effect is that it's not attached. כלומר, אם הייתה הערתו גם כן בכל דלת הבחינות כמו אור אינסוף, if the light would go to all four phases, the light of the line would go to all four phases of the circle, like it did by the endless, שאז הייתה צורתו שווה ודבוקה באינסוף, then their forms would be the same. ואם כן, היה מתבטל באינסוף ובלתי ניכר לגמרי. And since the form would be the same as the endless, you would just call it the endless, and it wouldn't have its own name. האור המתפשט מהאינסוף אל הנאצל, the light that goes from the endless to the emanated, נקרא בשם אור ישר. It's called direct light. והאור הזה מתקשר בנאצל, and this light ties itself to the emanated thing, על ידי מלבוש של אור חוזר העולה מהמסך, ולמעלה בכוח זיווג דקה. How does it tie itself to the emanated thing? Through what we call through dressing itself in what we call Or Chozer, or returning light. What's it returning from? The light comes down from the endless through the line, hits the masach, hits the screen, and goes back. That's called Or Chozer. Bekoach zivug da'akaha. That moment of the light hitting the screen is called zivug da'akaha, or the partnership of the hitting. That's how it literally translates, but our terminology for it is zivug da'akaha. Shinyano yitba'er la'alan, which we'll explain further later on. V'nikra b'shem hitkashrut. It's called being tied together. Mishum she'or chozer zeh, this returning light, ha'oleh ma'masach debchina daled, that goes up from the masach of the fourth phase, from the screen of the fourth phase, ma'akav ha'yashar hu machzik u'matpis et ha'or elyon b'igul. Goes from the line of the light, hits the masach, then we have returning light, and that's what holds this circle together that is created, that we're talking about. באופן שבמקום שהאור וחלל, שהאוויר וחלל אינו מלביש את האור העליון, wherever the Or Chozer, the returning light, doesn't dress the upper light, נחשב אותו האור כלפי הנאצל כמו שאינו, כי אינו משיג אותו בלי המלבוש הזה שנקרא אור חוזר. That light to the emanated one, so wherever the light is not dressed by the returning light, so we have direct light, and we have this dressing for it called returning light. Why does this help us? Because wherever there is no returning light, the emanated thing has no way to grasp that light without the returning light. ויתבאר עוד להלן, and we'll explain more later, Rav Ashlag is saying, וזה דומה להבדיל, and Rav Ashlag is about to give an example, but he says, even before he starts the example, there's a difference between the physical example we're about to give and how it works spiritually, but this is the best way we can understand it. לנר של חלב, שאף על פי שעיקר כוח ההארה נמשך ממידת החלב שבו. So if you have a candle with a wick and the flame is lit, even though we know that the way it shines is because it's sucking the melted wax through the wick, or Rav Ashlag uses the example of fat. They used to make candles out of fat. עם כל זה, אין האור מתקשר בחלב אלא בפתילה. The fire doesn't actually touch the candle, it's attached through the wick. ובמקום שנגמרת הפתילה, מתחבר הנר. And whenever the wick runs out, that's when the fire runs out. You ever see, if you light like a memorial candle or a tea light candle, sometimes it doesn't burn all the way. What happened there? The wick was burning faster than the wax was melting. So the wick went below the level of the melted wax, and then the fire went out. Because without this wick, without the fire touching the wick, and that leads it to the wax, then the fire wouldn't be able to survive. Even if there's a lot of fuel left, if there's no way for the fire to take it in a moderated way, then the fire will go out. The same example applies to why we need the returning light. We have the direct light, but because of how things work after the contraction, because of the masach, the screen, we can't access that light without ol chozer, without the returning light. And we'll explain what returning light is next time. Have a great week.